Hey, this is Sean Price with the Home Team Group here in Northern Virginia. Wanted to go through a couple questions that we've had from some sellers and some buyers. So this is a new weekly video that we're going to be doing. Today we have two questions that I'm going to go over. First question is from the seller's perspective, especially in the market that we're in at the time of shooting this video. It's a very strong seller's market. So the question was, what are the factors that affect price and how quickly a property moves for a seller? In other words, I think what they were asking is they're asking, what should you as a seller really keep in mind when you're putting your house on the market? So there's a couple things to realize. The way that the market determines the value of a house, it's not your realtor that determines the value of the house. It's not you, the seller, that determines the value of the house. It's the market. It's the buyers and what a buyer is willing to pay. And there basically are three factors that go into what a buyer is willing to pay. Now, the market activity level can affect how important these three factors are. So, for example, in the strong seller's market that we're in right now, these three factors carry a little less weight because of the competition. Buyers are kind of desperate. Carries a little less weight than it would in a neutral market. But these factors do still matter. We do still have properties, even in this strong seller's market, that when these factors are not applied appropriately, houses are still sitting on the market. They're still not getting offers, and sellers are still wondering what's going on. Okay, so what are these three factors? So the three factors are the condition of the property, the location of the property, and the price of the property. Okay, so the condition of the property, what that has to do with is, what's the age of the roof? What's the age of the HVAC system? What's the cosmetically, how is it painted? Is there wallpaper? What is your kitchen updated, or are your bathrooms updated? So from a seller's perspective, if you have an updated home with fresh paint, with these factors that the mechanicals are in good condition. By mechanicals, I mean your HVAC, your water heater, your roof, and so on. If you're in a situation where you have all of these factors and the condition of the property is top notch, that positions you to sell for the maximum price that house will be valued at. If your condition is not there, if there's another house that has better condition and your house is dated, or these other factors are not there, then the market demand is going to be a little bit lower and the market's going to pay less for that property. So that's factor number one, is condition, and you have control over that. So we have sellers that right now, they're wanting to just throw their property on the market no matter what the condition is, and they're expecting, all these offers to come in and sell it for maximum dollar, and it's just not happening like that. If the condition isn't there, the market will pay what the market will pay. So they're usually not selling very quickly, or they are selling a little bit under asking price. And the problem with it not selling quickly, especially in this market, is if a property goes more than, typically in a typical market, if a market goes more than 30 days, buyers start thinking, okay, there's something wrong with the property, and you start getting lower offers. In this market, if a property goes more than 7 to 14 days, that's the situation, because most properties that have good condition, good location, and are priced right, they're selling in the first weekend. So if a property makes it through that first weekend, a buyer sees an opportunity. So that's something to keep into consideration, is the condition of your property, and be realistic with that. The next factor is location. Location, there's nothing you can do about that. So if you have a property that backs up to power lines, or you have a property that's on a busy highway or backs up to a busy highway, if there's a location factor, it's next to a retention pond, excuse me, a retention pond, it's just, location is important. And there's nothing you can do about that. So you need to make sure you price the house appropriately. One house in a certain location that's ideally located and walkable and all these different things is going to sell for a few $100,000 more than the same house in a location that is on a major highway and might have power lines or things like that. Okay, and there's nothing we can do about location, so you have to be realistic about that. And then the last thing, of course, is price. And believe it or not, price is a marketing aspect of your property. Again, the property will not draw enough attention if it's overpriced based on where the market is right now. So for example, if your house is worth $500,000 and you price it at $650,000, even if it's in immaculate condition, you're not going to get the traffic through there, and you're going to end up sitting on the market and face all the things that we just talked about, and you're going to end up doing price reductions. So price is a part of the marketing strategy. You have to price that property appropriately. We see a lot of sellers, especially in this market, that are getting, they're testing the market. They're like, I just want to throw my property on the market and I want to see what I can get for it. And they're overpricing it. And those properties just aren't selling. So condition, location, and price. If you have great condition, you've got a good location, you're going to get maximum price, but the price has to be accurate. If you're priced too high, even with great condition, great location, you're going to sit on the market and you're going to end up selling under ask. So the factor here is, it's list price to sales price. What's the end sales price? And that's how you can tell ultimately how your home presented in the market. Did you get at the list price? Or your list price and sales price even? Did you get above your sales price or your list price, or did you go below? That's how you can tell how effective your strategy was. So it's really important that you speak with a real estate professional that understands the market, knows the trends that are going on in conditions right now, and can advise you appropriately on that. Okay, so those are factors number one, and those are the three main factors. And then the last factor depends on the goal of the seller. Do you want to sell it quick? Do you want to sell it like the most convenient way possible? Or are you willing to hang on to it? Do you have time to let it sit on the market? Are you willing to let the showings go on for 4 weeks, 6 weeks at a time while you're trying to get a higher price? If you're willing to do that, that's fine. Just understand that you're still gonna have to do those price reductions, but at least you'll know what you could have gotten. But if you want to do it quickly, you want to do it most conveniently, then you price it appropriately. And there's a strategy in marketing and in pricing the property. And it's kind of like an auction. Okay, so let's say you have this painting, and you put the painting on the auctioneer block, and you say, okay, you start the bidding at $1,000 or $500,000. Who's going to pay $500,000? And 20 paddles go up. And then the auctioneer, he goes through, he's like, okay, we got 20 people, okay, 750,000. And now there's only 10 paddles up. Okay, great. Okay, you go through and you're like, okay, $1 million. Now you only have 2 paddles up. Okay, 1.2 million. Now you have 1 paddle up. So that painting sold for 1.2 million. But if they had put the painting up and said, who's going to start the bidding at 1.2 million? Nobody would have put a paddle up. So there's that strategy. So then they have to start backtracking, and then the perceived value of the painting goes down. So it's the same thing with the house. If you start too high, nobody's going to raise their hand. Nobody's going to come and see it, and we have a litmus test that we use to see if the property is priced appropriately. Okay, so as a seller, determine, do you want to sell it quickly and the most conveniently, or are you good with letting it sit on the market for a while and just seeing what you can get? Those are the 2 factors. Once you have those 2 goals set in mind, then you go into condition, sales price, and location, and you establish your marketing plan from that. If you have any questions about that, or if you'd like us to sit down with you and discuss this, please let us know, and we will be happy to do so. Okay, question number 2. This is on the buyer's perspective. So basically, for a buyer in a market that, especially the market at the time of this video, there's been an emotional up and down for buyers. So 6 weeks prior to this video, buyers pretty much had to give everything away to get a property. So what we advise buyers to do is we advise you to look at what's your maximum budget, what are the 3 things that you have to have in a property, and what are the 3 things that are deal breakers for you. So for example, if you don't want to be on a busy street because you have children, or you don't want to be near power lines, or you don't want to be near a retention pond, or you want to have at least a certain amount of space. Okay, so the 3 things you have to have, 3 things you really, really want. And then outside of that, you focus just on finding those things. And when you find a house that fits that, and you objectively can look at that house and make sure that it fits those needs, then you move forward with it. You ignore the color on the walls. Now, for a seller, we're going to tell them, fix the color on the walls, because buyers have a hard time imagining. But as a buyer, you've got to wrap your head around, if you want to be strategic, you've got to wrap your head around what's cosmetic and what's structural. And as long as it doesn't have the 3 things that you really will not tolerate, and it does have the 3 things that you really want, then everything else can be changed. Okay, so you go in and you make your offer appropriately on that. Now, That's when you are in competition. That's when you're trying to make a quick decision. What was interesting is we had all this high competition, and about 6 weeks ago, the market kind of softened. So buyers were desperate and they were fighting for properties and they were missing out. We had buyers that missed out on 3, 4, 5, 6 properties before they could finally get themselves to adapt the principles that we're saying and offer appropriately and get a property. But then once the market started softening, their mindset shifted and fear kicked in. And it became, well, nobody wants this property. Why would I take it? And instead of seeing it as an opportunity, instead of seeing what the market is and seeing objectively where you are, the buyer got scared and felt like they were missing something. And that's where it's really important that you have a qualified and a professional real estate professional looking out for you, because our job is to protect your interests. Our job is to look at the market, let you know what's going on, let you know what the value of the house is. And once these things are objectively determined, you move forward on a property. So we have several buyers that missed out in this window because they saw the decrease in activity, so they got afraid that the market was about to crash. They got afraid that there was something wrong with the house because there weren't 50 people fighting for it. They had these normal emotional fears that came in. And so they missed out. And now we're in a situation where they're back into multiple offers, so now they have to go back to the old strategy. So what do you do as a buyer? Okay, and as a seller, but let's talk about the buyer side. What do you do as a buyer? Well, we talked about the 3 must-haves and the 3 things that you can tolerate. The next thing is you have to go from emotion to logic. Okay, you have to objectively look at a property. When you find a property that checks those boxes and doesn't check the bad boxes, then you look at it logically. Is the house priced appropriately? As a real estate professional, we can help you determine that. Is the house safe? Is it functional? And that's where the inspection comes in, and that's where we can do pre-offer inspections, or if there's an opportunity, we can do an offer inspection contingency. What is the overall condition of the home? Cosmetically, yes, you might have to paint, but is the home functional? Is it something that will have resale value in the future? So when you look at it objectively and you recognize that the real estate market is very, very forgiving. Even the people that bought in 2005, 2006, before the huge market crash happened, which we're not about to have another one of those, but before the huge market crash happened, those people are still gaining wealth in real estate. They still bought, and they just had to hang on to it a little bit longer, but real estate is very forgiving. So if you can objectively determine that, then you can objectively make the right decision. All right. If you have any questions about that, or if you'd like us to help you go through this process, please feel free to reach out to us. Be sure to click on the subscribe button, and we will see you on our next video.